Good morning, everybody. Morning, morning, morning. It is Moose and Keith. I'm Mark Malusis, Justin Henry in for Keith Arizari here on this Thursday morning. We got you for the next couple hours right here on the Better Sports Network. Justin, it's been a song or two. How have
Yeah,
you been, man? How's life? Good? How are the
life
kids?
is good. Life is good. The weather is heating up out here in California. The
Oh,
Lakers are playing here into May.
look at you
There's
representing.
no complaints at all right now, Marcus. It's been way too long since I've been on this show. Shout out to Keith too, man. These are tough shoes to fill into, but I got to bring the energy this morning, even though it's early out here in West Coast time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I understand you're out west. You're up early. Early bird catches the worm, and I'm glad you're able to do the show. It's always great doing the show with you, Justin. So we're gonna have fun the next couple hours, and thanks for being with us. And got a good show on tap. We'll hit upon it all from side angle, total, touch upon the NBA, get into the Lakers and Nuggets game 2 later on tonight out in Denver as Justin's Lakers team trying to even up that series at a game apiece, reacting to what we saw in game number 1. But game number 1 last night, Eastern Conference, out on the East Coast, not the West Coast, and that is the Boston Celtics at home against the Miami Heat. Went into the game. I mean, they were a minus 550 favorite to win the series. They were an 8-point favorite going into the game last night. They had a 11-point lead at the half, and Miami goes out and scores 46 points in the third quarter. You saw Boston, get lazy defensively, as you've seen time and time again here, Justin. And the Celtics are handed a game 1 loss. So the Miami Heat, they won game 1 against Milwaukee. The Miami Heat won game 1 against the New York Knicks. Miami went into Boston last night off a little bit of a break because they last played on Friday night when they eliminated the New York Knicks in 6 games. Come back on Wednesday night, go into Boston as an 8-point dog and win last night. And Jimmy Butler was utterly fantastic.
He was, man, and it's the same song and dance, right? Every time we're ready to say, there's a team that's just going to hammer the Miami Heat. There's a team that's better. Here come the Heat stepping up to the plate in an unexpected fashion. Jimmy Butler was incredible, but this Heat team, the way that they're able to rebound from any kind of back against the wall scenario as a team unified, it's incredible to see, right? When that third quarter hit, you're like, oh man, it kind of feels like the Celtics are going to come out. They're going to take care of business. It's at home. They're in cruise control. And then they let up off the gas, or the Heat just decided we're going to put it on full throttle. And right now, at the beginning of the series, it's tough because I can't tell which is which. Now, the over 40 points in third quarter lets me know the Heat are here and they're for real, right? We seen big shot after big shot. It seemed like every time they needed a big three, Max Strus was hitting it. Jimmy Butler was hitting it. They were making the right play, the right rebound. This team's gritty, coming all the way from the 8th seed, the play-in tournament, to now here in the Eastern Conference Finals, leading up a game 1, stealing the very first game, and it doesn't feel like they're wavering any type of confidence. This is a team that's dangerous, not just for the East, but a threat to really win it all.
Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time, and maybe I'm just looking at the roster, outside of Butler and Adebayo, but it's Strus, it's Vincent, it's Kevin Love, it's Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, Cody Zeller, Kyle Lowry coming off the bench playing 28 minutes last night, but Kyle Lowry is not the same player. Like, it is an amazing job that Spoelstra's done with this group, and I get that. And Spoelstra was asked after the game, Justin, about the impact of Jimmy Butler and having him and he said, well, you can't really quantify it. There's no analytic, there's no anything about what he is able to do. And Butler said, he's probably, he thinks there's another level to his game that he can go out there and get to. And as we all know, he works his rear end off. I mean, even though I can't stand the Miami Heat because I'm a Knick fan and Pat Riley faxing in his resignation and all these things that have happened, and the rivalry and the brawl and PJ Brown and everything that went on with Miami over the years, Alonzo Mourning, Tim Hardaway. So I'm not a huge Heat fan. However, have a healthy respect for what they do as a program, as an organization, healthy respect for how good Eric Spoelstra is as a head coach, and clearly an unbelievable amount of respect for Jimmy Butler. But the frustrating thing to me, Justin, is that when I look at the Boston Celtics, I mentioned it yesterday, and I thought Alan Hahn, right, who does radio here in New York and is on ESPN from time to time and is a basketball guy, I thought it put it really, really well and succinctly with Boston. they're like a kid who likes to play with their food.
Yeah.
And the Celtics just are sloppy. I mean, they just are. They don't, maybe they went into this series with this, oh, we got this kind of feel after they survived game 6 in Philadelphia and then obliterated the 76ers, which cost Doc Rivers his job on Sunday in game 7. But the Boston Celtics are by far a more talented team than the Miami Heat. Like, how does Joe Mazzulla, when the Celtics are going on this like 25-2 run in the third quarter, how does Joe Mazzulla, how does he not call a timeout? I mean, how exactly do you not hold this team accountable, while the game's going on, to where you don't sacrifice the game? I understand, Justin, having trust in your players, but
Yeah.
Boston gets so messy with these games. It's hard to, and they're so gifted, they're so talented, Tatum and Brown. We understand all that. They just get into these mindsets where, it's hard to identify who the real Boston Celtics are.
It is. And they've been like this all season. This is the type of team, when you look at somebody with potential, you look at, somebody who plays really well against good opponents, and then they just play terrible or down to their competition. You see it all the time. And the Celtics team is the epitome of that, right? Anytime they play somebody when their back is against the wall, feels like we get a prolific Celtics appearance, right? We get Jason Tatum going for 51 when it's 3-3 in game 7. They're down 3-2 and they make a fourth quarter comeback. But when they have the lead or when they're playing an inferior opponent, it kind of feels like they don't want it. This isn't a team that goes for the sweep. This isn't a team that takes care of business early and often. It doesn't hold a lead very well. So when I look at the Celtics, I'm like, against the Hawks, they let that series extend all the way to 6 games as well. I don't get it. And I think it does have a lot to do with the coaching. He coaches like somebody who's a little inexperienced at times, especially in the playoffs. And I think when we forget, this is his first true playoff run, right? Joe Mazzulla, I don't know how to feel about it because he's obviously got him here to the Eastern Conference Finals. So there's respect for that. But when you're going up against a coach like Spo, who does know how to coach his team, who does know, he's been in these scenarios, it's a little bit different now. I think this team is talented, Moose. And, the Celtics team, we've seen it in January where they had, they were cruising to the best record in the league. And then they faltered, losing games to the lowly Houston Rockets at times. Jason Tatum will go a game where he's shooting damn near 50% from the field. And then he'll have a game where he's 6 for 23. And we're wondering, is Jason Tatum folding in some of these moments? They've got to figure it out because I don't think this is the right team. The Miami Heat are not the right team to play around with. The Miami Heat are not the right team to be even or go down 3-2 against because this team does have a killer instinct.
Well, no doubt. I mean, Justin, that's in. They play with absolutely no fear. But back to the Mazzulla-Spoelstra conversation for a second, because I do think it's interesting because I think one of the reasons that Miami Heat are here, now up 1-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals, 3 victories away from going to the NBA Finals, has everything to do with the head coach. Not take anything away from Butler and what he does as a player, because you can't do it with smoke and mirrors. You need to have talent. And Jimmy Butler, is an unbelievable basketball player. And Bam Adebayo, even though he, toes the line of being too physical at times, and the Knicks can understand that with some of the things that were going on during the course of that series. But Miami just absolutely beat down the Knicks in that series. Spoelstra's done an unbelievable job. Like, they are here because of the mindset and the tone trickle down, Riley to Spoelstra to the team, and kind of the mindset that they have as a franchise. You can't say that Mazzulla.
No,
like
you
this,
can't.
I mean, like, I wouldn't say like he has nothing to do with it, but this is a Boston Celtics. How many times have they been to the Eastern Conference Finals? 5 times. I mean, you look at Tatum and Brown. I mean, they've been there. They've been experienced with this group. They've got Marcus Smart. You've got Robert Williams. You've got Al Horford. You've got Tatum. You've got Brown. You've got guys that have been through the battles, been through the wars before. I'm not telling you that Mazzulla's along for the ride, Justin, but there's a discernible difference when you're looking at the coaching, because Spoelstra is an architect, is a maestro. I mean, he's one of the all-time great NBA coaches. He really is, for what he's accomplished down there in Miami. And I don't have that confidence level in Mazzulla. Like, I think Boston's here because more it had to do with, what those guys, what Smart, Tatum, and Brown can do, and Horford can do, and Robert Williams can do on the court. I mean, just look how long it took him to finally start Robert Williams in that series against the Philadelphia 76ers. He was playing like 15 minutes a night. It made little to no sense whatsoever. Meanwhile, Horford and Williams together defensively down low all season long were fantastic, and you're going up against Joel Embiid like it made no sense.
No sense at all. And I think he's one of those guys, in college, Moose, I used to be the guy. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I'm a pretty intelligent guy, I'd say. Like, took AP classes in high school, honors classes in high school.
Look at you.
Yeah, I was that guy. I'm not going to lie. And then I went to college, and, everybody's expecting me to go through with this engineering degree and civil engineering. And, I like to play a little bit. I like to go out, have fun, go to the club. But if I had a paper due, and that paper was due at 8 o'clock in the morning for my 8 o'clock class on Friday, I would somehow find a way to get it done. Whether I had to stay up all late at night when all odds were against me, it didn't look like I was going to finish the paper, I get it done. And it kind of feels like this Celtics team is there. It feels like Joe Mazzulla coaches his team like, all right, how long do we have until we have to make a run? Can I let these guys stay in the game without calling a timeout? I trust them. I trust my team to get it done. And he's just relying on the fact that he thinks he has a better team through 7 games. When on the other side, they got a team of Hunters. They got a team of Wolves. And the Miami Heat, for all intents and purposes, it isn't just Spo. It isn't just Jimmy Butler. There's a lot of guys on that team, like a lot of dogs on that team, and a lot of vets too. Kyle Lowry, Kevin Love, while it may look like they're past their prime, they still have an impact on the game. Guys like Gabe Vincent, hungry because they came from the G League, undrafted, making plays. Strus, you got Duncan Robinson hitting clutch threes. I just think that this team, it's kind of like how the Lakers are set up. You got your 2 studs. You got your stud players in Jimmy Butler, and then your secondary player in Bam Adebayo. But this team is full of players that can get hot at any time and score 10, score 15 points. And that's a dangerous team because there's no expectations for the Heat. They're playing free.
And listen, Justin, I thought it was going to be a death blow in the Bucks series when they lost Tyler Hero. It's actually benefited Miami. I mean, really they share the basketball a lot better. They're less reliant on watching him, shoot the basketball, stand around and watch. They don't care who's exactly taking the shot when they hit their threes. I mean, listen, Miami went into there. And there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be able to win playoff games if you're going to shoot 51% from 3. With the way that the 3-point shot is taken, Miami last night was 16 of 31. Like, they were scorching hot. Now, they were remarkably inconsistent during the regular season. They were inconsistent in the Bucks series. They were inconsistent in the Knicks series. Like, am I banking on Miami to go 16 of 31 again for game 2 of this playoff series? No. But I will say you're 100% correct about the physicality, and it's a group that, even though they don't have the biggest names in the world outside of Butler and Adebayo, there is a no fear, and I hate that cliche, mentality and a toughness and a mental toughness to Miami where they're not going to back down. They really aren't. I mean, and we've seen teams back down. We saw the Cavs basically cower in the corner against the Knicks. Like, they wanted no part of the Knicks playing physical with them. Like, Miami was like, yeah, we're game. You want to try and push us around, we're going to push you right back. And they're not intimidated because of the experience that this group has gone through. And they were in the Eastern Conference. Got to remember, Miami last year was the number 1 seed in the East, and they were in the Eastern Conference Finals and lost to the Celtics in 7 games. I mean, so it's not exactly like this is a team. Now, they had a bad regular season. They were part of the play-in tournament. But I do think that the loss of Tyler Hero, who went out with that, I'm not telling you that I root for injuries. It's almost like Miami's become a better team without Tyler Hero on the court than they were with him.
Yeah, his game is really individualistic, right? Call it heliocentric, where the ball has to be in his hand, right? In order for him to make plays. He'll have a little catch and shoot action, but for the most part, Tyler Hero's getting his shots up. And what he provides defensively isn't anything that's missing from this team. And then you get a bunch of unproven guys. I mean, the team has 6 players that came from the G League, which is unheard of, right? Guys that are just coming in making plays. So these guys they've had to fight for everything they've earned in their careers. And I think that brings a little bit of that Heat culture, right, to the table each and every game. Tyler Hero is not a guy that, they're talking about, hey, he might come back from the series. I'm in agreement with you there. I think this is the perfect scenario for him to just continue to sit out. They've been doing things without him. I think Jimmy Butler is the key to it all, though, because he brings a lot of confidence for these guys. He had, even last series, there was a game where he's like, we're gonna go out there, I'll play 48 minutes and win. And it's like when you say things a lot of times like that, it can go the opposite way, a la Dylan Brooks. These guys believe in Jimmy Butler, they believe in Spo, they believe in each other. And that Heat culture, man, you mentioned cliches. Saying Heat culture is kind of cliche at this point, but it's really understood and it's visible on the basketball court when you get into situations like yesterday. I want to ask you this, though. Do you feel like, because I truly feel like the Celtics are the better team in this series, even still. Do you feel like the Celtics are one of those teams, because I alluded to it. Do you feel like they're one of the teams that does play better when their back is against the wall? Or do you feel like they're a team that's just maybe just so inconsistent we don't know what to expect on a night-to-night basis?
No, they seem to respond when their backs are up against the wall. Like, that's the whole, like, kind of play with their food kind of mentality, where I thought last night they were sloppy. I mean, I think I even heard Malcolm Brogdon after the game say, we came out, we didn't have the right mentality of the second half to start that third quarter. See, Boston went into the half basically thinking the game was over or we got this. The Heat went into the half and basically saying, all right, how do we figure out a way? And they went out and got scorching hot in that third quarter and dropped in 46. And Boston, unfortunately, was so back on their heels, they had no idea how to respond. So I mean, Justin, I agree with you. Boston was the deserved favorite. I don't know if I'd make them a minus 550 favorite to start this series, but Boston was the deserved favorite. If you talk to a lot of NBA talent evaluators, they look at the Celtics as having the better roster, significantly more talented roster as compared to the Miami Heat. But as we all know, we all watch sports, we all watch NBA basketball, we all watch college basketball. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. You've got to go out there and do it. And Boston last night, in the third quarter decided that, they were going to play their best basketball in the first half. And Miami went out in the third quarter and said, let's take it to them. Let's see how they respond. And then Boston had no idea what hit them when it actually hit them between the eyes. I mean, to be down 11 at the half and to score 46 points. And we're not talking about, this is not Denver. It's not Golden State. Like, it's the Miami Heat. And you're having Strus dropping 1-3 after another. I mean, like, it was like utterly amazing, like what Miami did last night in the third quarter. And it was like, if we were in a prize fight, Justin, it would have been like, stop the fight. Like, it's amazing. Like, they were just one punch after another to the Celtics in that third quarter. Now, Boston was able to make it a 5-point game late in the fourth.
Like, that's the part right there.
But then you got the inconsistency with Jason Tatum. Just as we talked about how brilliant Jason Tatum is, he's a guy that scored 51 points on Sunday, had 16 points in Game 6, outscored the entire Philadelphia 76ers team, and then goes out there and gives you a remarkably inconsistent Game 1 last night against the Miami Heat. Like, if you look at it talent-wise, Justin, this should be a 5 or 6 game series. And you know what? It's probably going to go 7.
Yeah, it probably will go 7. I had Celtics in 5 coming into the series. I look at the talent, and when you look at it from a back, a little bit further vantage point, you're like, Miami is the inferior team. The Celtics are the better team. The Celtics have home court advantage. Things should work in the Celtics' favor. And then here we are talking about how they're not. The inconsistency to me is incredible, because we all know what the talent is. Right. But how does Jason Tatum look this different each game? I honestly can't figure it out. And it's not just Jason Tatum. The whole offense looks different every single game. There's no reliability at all. Malcolm Brogdon, sometimes we see him play an important role. Sometimes he doesn't. Marcus Smart will look elite some games. He'll drop 20 points, have 10 assists, and then other games he's dropping 6 points with 3 assists. There's just no consistency on this team. One game, it's Jason Tatum. The other game, it's Jaylen Brown. One time, we're seeing Robert Williams get 30 minutes. The next game, we're seeing him get 10. I just want to see something consistent and reliable, because I look at Game 2 as a very important game for not just the outcome of the game, but how the game is won by either team. Now, the Celtics go in there and dominate Game 2. I think we could say, okay, we expected them to rebound. They did what they're supposed to do at home. But Miami wins. I'm still not even sure if we should be questioning the Celtics, because that might be the perfect setup for them. They've been able to go on the road and win. I really can't tell with this damn Celtics team, man.
I still think the Celtics win the series, but Miami is gonna make them sweat. I mean, there's no doubt about it, and they're not gonna back down. Here's Jimmy Butler after the game one performance, and Jimmy Buckets looked really, really healthy last night in Beantown. Take a listen.
How does this feel to you guys, what you have done so far? And if you go back all the way to that night against Chicago in the play-in, did you think then that something like this would be possible?
Damn right. I did. Damn right we did. And the best part about it is we still don't care what none of y'all think. Honestly speaking, we don't care if you pick us to win. We never have. We never will. We know the group of guys we have in this locker room. We know that Coach Spo puts so much confidence and belief in each and every one of us. Coach Pat as well. And so our circle's small, but this circle got so much love for one another. We pump constant confidence into everybody. And we go out there and we hoop. We play basketball the right way, knowing that we always got a chance.
Yeah, listen, there's nothing not to like about Jimmy Butler. I mean, just,
that guy probably just walks around.
ah,
People just go around him.
I
when
wish
he
I had
walks.
some of
You
the
already know.
well, exactly right. I mean, the confidence level that he walks around with, the belief, and heard him say something else further on in that presser last night because I was listening to it. I kind of geek out a little bit after post games, especially kind of hearing what some of the players and specifically what the messaging from some of the coaches after the game. But Butler was talking about the fact of that Miami gives him the freedom to be himself, and as a player. And I mean, you see it. I mean, and it's not, we should not only talk about like the Heat culture, we should talk about the Butler culture because Jimmy Butler demands just like, and he's not Jordan. I'm not saying that, but Jimmy Butler, every stop he's been in, whether it be Chicago, Minnesota, Philadelphia, or Miami, and Justin, we've all heard the stories over the years, demands a lot of his teammates, demands them to be just and work just as hard as he does, to be great just like he is, he wants them to kind of be, really, really meticulous and the work ethic to be there. And, we talk about the impact of it's almost like he's a perfect Miami Heat player. Spoelstra likes to work. He likes to practice. He talks about treatment days as being spa days for his players down there in Miami. So with all of that, it's almost like Jimmy Butler is a perfect Heat guy. Just like Alonzo Mourning was a perfect Heat player because of his work ethic and other guys through the years. Butler is, outside of like LeBron, Wade was a great Heat player. I get it. Chris Bosh, obviously, unfortunately, his career came to an end due to health circumstances. But Butler's a perfect guy to kind of impose his will or carry on the messaging of what being a Miami Heat a player is all about, even though he didn't start his career there, because it's really kind of his game is an embodiment of Heat culture.
It really is. And just being able to play both sides of the court, the attitude, being able to take whatever shot is needed for the team, elevate your level of play. We hear him on the mic, the confidence that he talks with, it's an aura. And it's kind of, you can tell Pat Riley has that. You can tell Spoelstra carries himself that way. And it does trickle down throughout the entire organization. Jimmy Butler is one of a kind. Because when we look back at the great competitors in this, in basketball in general, especially at the wing position, you talk about Jordan, you talk about Kobe Bryant, and just that dog that those guys have. Jimmy Butler has that. He doesn't have necessarily the same scoring prowess. He doesn't have the championship accolades that those guys have, doesn't have the MVPs, but he does have the competitiveness. And as a competitor, I'm not sure if there's a better competitor in the league right now than Jimmy Butler. And that's not to say anything else about any of the other 400 players in the league. But yes, Jimmy Butler is him for a reason. And, that's the reason why these guys are always in the same position here year after year, no matter who is on the roster.
Not only is Justin up early out west, he's playing a little bit under the weather today, battling a little bit of cold. He's got a little hot tea. So there's a reaction. You think Boston responds game 2? I do.
I think they respond in a big way, actually. I think Boston will go out there and I'm maybe not blowout, but decisive win. If I had to call it one way right now, with their backs against the wall, I don't think Miami hands it to them easily, but I think it's a decisive Game 2 victory for the Celtics.
Don't worry, we'll get into Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. Justin is all decked out in his Lakers gear. We'll touch upon that. But first, we got to get into kind of the back and forth. I love when you hear one analyst say one thing and then another analyst reacts to what that analyst has to say. And we saw that yesterday with J.J. Redick and then the reaction by Charles Barkley last night on TNT up in Beantown. We'll get into everything surrounding Ja Morant. We'll do that next. He's Justin Henry. I'm Mark Malusis. The show is Moose and Keith coming on a Thursday. You know where you're at. Better Sports Network. Stay tuned.
Vegas Raiders have traded up to 35, and they give up the 38th overall pick. In addition, a 5th-round pick goes to Indianapolis as the Colts trade down. The pick is in. And, Coop, your top 2 tight ends, best tight ends available, are now off the board as Michael Mayer is going to be the Darren Waller replacement in Las Vegas, catching balls from Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe somebody else in the future. But Michael Mayer is off the board. The Raiders have traded up, and I always look at this too from like dynasty fantasy football standpoint. I always like the guys that are traded up for. Michael Mayer gets traded up for as he is off the board now at pick 35. He goes to the Raiders. How does he fit in this system? Not only with Jimmy Garoppolo, but also Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, some significant pass catchers there, including Hunter Renfrow now.
Eric, I love that you pointed that out because that's the part of the draft that people forget when they're doing their analysis. They think about the draft capital, they think about the landing spot, they forget the draft narrative, right? This proves to us that the Raiders, at the very least, had Michael Mayer as high as Sam Laporta or maybe even higher because they're looking around and saying, all right, that guy's gone. We have to get this guy right now. And this guy probably is a better fit for what Josh McDaniel wants to do. He's used to Rob Gronkowski. He's used to Hunter Henry, these two-way tight ends that can block and run routes down the seam. Sam Laporta is not going to do that. He's only 240 pounds. This guy is your prototypical real-life tight end. That's why a lot of people were saying he's the best real tight end in the draft. Clearly, pass catching is at a premium. That's why Dalton Kincaid and Sam Laporta went first. But this guy's going to fit really well into that scheme. My question is, when does he become fantasy relevant? Because the vast majority of tight ends that are fantasy relevant are top 2 targets on their team with Devontae Adams there and Jacoby Myers there
that's not happening.
and Hunter Renfrow there. I mean, when does it happen, Moose? How long do we have to wait?
Yeah, forever. It might be a while. I mean, when you look at it. But I do think he's a great fit. All right, welcome back. It's Moose and Keith with you. Justin Henry in for Keith Arizari on this Thursday. I'm Mark Malusis, and thanks for being with us. And hello to Jacob Asa and everybody else in the chat session here on this Thursday morning.
With us.
Yes, chilling with us, hanging with us. We got you right up until high noon. Ja Morant. We all know what's going on. We all saw his apology. We know the gun video that went viral, or he was on Instagram Live, but he was driving, and obviously he flashed a gun. We know what happened during the course of the regular season with Ja Morant. Interesting back and forth, not meant to be a back and forth, but just ended up being a back and forth because J.J. Redick, who does a hell of a job, he's got a good podcast out there as well, and former player and a great player at Duke, was on with Stephen A. Smith yesterday.
Yep.
And had a little diatribe, a little bit of a rant on Ja Morant. So let's play that. And then Charles Barkley last night on TNT had a reaction. Here's Redick first.
Again, we can go into the backstory of the incident with the teenager. Ja's claiming self-defense, that the teenager threw the ball in his face. We can go into the incident at the mall when he yelled at his security guard. We can go into the incident with the Indiana Pacers traveling party. As far as we know, all of these things have been investigated and no law has been broken. I'm not condoning the behavior. I'm not saying there should be no punishment. There should be. There should be consequences. You are the face of the league. You are representing the NBA. You are a role model to young kids. All of that. I don't think half a season is the right answer. And the last point I want to make is you bring this up, the guns on social media. We talk about consequences. Look, in our country right now, gun culture is pervasive. It's pervasive. We've got mass shooting after mass shooting, and nobody's doing a damn thing about it. So I get why we're so sensitive to this right now. But there's no consequence for Greg Abbott telling his constituents that they should go buy more guns, and then we have mass shooting after mass shooting in Texas. There's no consequence for an elected Tennessee official to send out a Christmas card holding AR-15s with his young family, and then there's a shooting in his very district. There's no consequences to that. So why are we trying to lay down the hammer on a 23-year-old who didn't break a law? Explain that to me.
All right, so there's Reddick yesterday morning. Now Barkley and Justin, I listen. I think Barkley, Kenny Smith, Ernie, and Shaq they're amazing. Like they could talk about anything, and I'd find it entertaining. Like it doesn't even have to be about basketball. Like I think they have such great chemistry, and it's such an enjoyable watch. And
I love those guys.
Yeah, they're amazing. It's the best studio show, and it's not even close to and people try and mimic it, and whether it be the NFL or whatever, there's nothing close because they all bust each other's chops. No one takes themselves too seriously. They joke around.
You like hanging out with your friends, you know? That's all it is.
It's amazing. Like I love them all, and like and they're just great. Like when the season comes to an end and when they're done, like it's almost sad in my household because I love watching them so much. But here was Barkley last night before Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals up in Boston, reacting to not only what he didn't call out JJ Redick specifically, but what Redick and others have had to say about Ja Morant. Take a listen.
First of all, I got to say something, man. We got some idiots, some fools, some jackasses on television that really just piss me off. Talking about Ja should make a stand saying he didn't break any laws. He didn't do anything wrong. We're in a state where you can carry your gun. Those guys are just freaking idiots. And I only say freaking because y'all won't let me say what I want to say. It pisses me off when I hear guys say that, yo, man, when you're making $100 million a year to play sports, your life changes. There are certain rules and regulations you have to live by, plain and simple. You can't do stupid stuff. That's the trade-off. Now, if you want to do all that stuff and give all that money back, more power to you. You can make that stance. Say, you know what, I want to do what I want to do. I want to flash my gun and make videos and do things. Okay, that's fine. But you can't make money on the NBA doing this stuff. I just hope that he grows up and realizes, like, yo, man, first of all, you're not a thug. You're not a criminal. You're not a crook. You're a guy making $100 million a year to dribble a stupid, $200 million to dribble a stupid basketball. And you hit the lottery. We all hit the lottery to do something. There's people out there work 9 to 5, 8 and 9 hours a week, gonna make $25,000 a year. They would kill to be in our situation. And, Kenny's right. At some point, it's not your friends. Bill Parcells used to always say, and I love it, he says, yo, man, you just an unlucky dude. Bad stuff happen around you all the time. You just an unlucky dude. No, man. You got to look in the mirror and say, yo, you know what? Maybe I'm the problem. And it's disappointing because the kid's a great player, but to be a fool already, then be a bigger fool a couple months later, and this is like your 5th or 6th gun thing. And like I say, hey, I'm a gun guy. But I don't understand why you're flashing it. My bodyguard teaches me, man, if you touch your gun, you better shoot somebody. It ain't for everybody to know you got. And he riding around with, I guess he think he with Antoine Fuqua and Steven Spielberg. You got your friends.
Yes. He's talking about making a film on it.
Charles Barkley, man, one of a kind.
Yeah, he just did. Justin, what was your take on, number one, everything encapsulating, in terms of what Redick had to say and what Barkley had to say?
Well, I sympathize a lot with Barkley, man. And that's, if I had to say I had a stance, it would be 95% of what Barkley said and probably a lot less of what JJ Redick had to say. Look, when you're in a position as a professional athlete, you play basketball in front of millions of people, you never know who's watching you and you never know who's looking up to you. And coming from a guy, Charles Barkley said it, you're a role model for these kids. Charles Barkley infamously is one of the people who said he was not a role model, right? We all saw a commercial. But when it comes down to Ja Morant, I'm like, how many times are we going to have to go through this? And people don't want a 40-game suspension, half a season or full season suspension. It's not like this is the first go around. And, you have kids, I got kids. You tell him the first time, and maybe you let him off a little bit lighter than you wanted to, because perception, you're like, maybe I'm tripping. It wasn't that bad of a deal. Maybe I'm overreacting, right? He got 8 games. At the time, that seemed pretty light, especially with what was going on, the way he just posted the gun on social media. And then Adam Silver, you could tell all in his response to this, he seemed very disappointed. To me, 40 games, half the season, that's light, because there's a couple routes that Ja Morant can go. This could be a route where we continue to see him flash guns, nothing happens, he ends up losing his career, or maybe he's just in the wrong circles and things get worse. Now, if you don't put it into it, you don't put it into his own problem, this could end up a lot worse for Ja Morant. We've seen it with other players. We've seen it in other situations. So I hope I want to see Ja back on the court. I want to see him playing, and I don't want to see any more suspensions. Worst case scenario, I hope this time, whatever time he gets off, gives him the time to recover, to get out of whatever situation he's in, and get his mind right and focus on being the best basketball player for the Memphis Grizzlies that's possible.
Yeah, I think you said it well. First, my thing with Redick is this is not about, whether he broke the law or trying to hold someone, a 23-year-old, more accountable than anything else. Brings up politicians like Greg Abbott and others. Listen, those are elected officials. They can be voted out of office. If the people in their respective state or district want to vote them out of the office, that is how they will respond. And I'm not telling you that gun culture is not pervasive. Like I mentioned yesterday, I don't own a gun. I've never fired a gun. I have no interest in firing a gun, no interest in going to a firing range, none of that. Right. So I don't, I have an old softball bat that I keep by my bed. That's basically it. That's the only protection I have in the Malusis household. And, as everybody has, like a security system, right? Set the alarm when you're walking out. I don't have anything else. Right. So I'm not one, but I'm not like, if you decide to do that, and all I ask you to do is be responsible with it, right? And everything like that. It's being irresponsible, and there does come along. So if you're going to bring up the elected officials and bring up the mass shootings, which are horrendous and awful and have got to come to an end, that has nothing to do with that has nothing to do with what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is a young man who's unbelievably gifted and talented, who's one of the top 10 face in the National Basketball Association, who is the face of an entire organization in Memphis that is making the decision, in his spare time, to kind of perpetrate a culture of being around and hanging around with people that have got guns, and he has guns, and you can't be doing that. Like Barkley said it brilliantly. You can't make the money. Like if you don't want to make the, $45 million a year, and you want to go play with guns and go on TikTok and Instagram and do all that, then that's all well and good. You're free to go do that. But there's a responsibility when you are being paid what you're being paid, because he is an unbelievably gifted player. And Justin, he's worked his rear end off to put himself in this position. And he's got an unbelievable amount of God-given ability, but people are paying a lot of money to go watch Ja Morant play at home, on the road, and buying his jerseys and all that. And all that is well-deserved. Like, he's not doing this with smoke and mirrors. He's unbelievably talented. But with all of that comes a responsibility that you can't be doing what you did over the course of the weekend. Like, you can't have it both ways. Like, you just can't. And like, the NBA is not going to be like, yeah, hey, okay, that's all well and good, because Ja Morant is working in an organization, in an association. He's hired by a team. They are paying him. He's not his own entity. He's not his own entrepreneur. I mean, he does that with a shoe deal with Nike and everything like that. But all of that's going to go away, because nobody's going to want to be connected with this if this continues. And if he didn't see the light of day during the regular season, when he was suspended for the 8 games or went into when does it come to a point in time here for Ja Morant? Because he issued the statement on NBA draft night, Justin, and I took it with a grain of salt. Like, I don't necessarily believe it, because you've got kids, I've got kids. Like, when your kids are really sorry. And when your kids are saying sorry just for the sake of trying to get the heat off of them a little bit after they did something wrong. I think Ja Morant issued that statement in reaction to when Adam Silver had that interview with Malika Andrews, and he realized, oh my God, this is going to get really bad.
It was one of those definitely ill-timed responses, right? Didn't give enough time to breathe, didn't give enough time to assess the situation. It was a panic response. And, for everybody that says John Morant didn't break any laws, this, like you mentioned, there's no equivalent to this on the other side. This is an entirely different scenario. I went to Adam Silver's face. I told him I was going to turn it around 2 months ago, and I did the exact same thing less than 2 months later. And now the commissioner of the league can do whatever he wants. This isn't a break law. This is a workplace scenario. If you decide to go have a fling with another person, that's not illegal. But in the workplace, it's not tolerated. If you show up late to something, that's not illegal. That's not tolerated in the workplace. There's a difference between there being something that you can do in the workplace for a brand versus what's legal and what's not. And yes, brandishing a gun is something that the league is not going to tolerate. And maybe it's not in the rule books. Maybe it's something that you could pound the table for and try to make, a similarity in the other aspect. No, this is the NBA, who's already had hard stances on, hip hop culture in the past, for whether it was good or bad. The league has said that they want to keep this professional for all players, all coaches, everybody in general. The avid fan, the kids that need role models. This is not something that's going to go lightly. And yes, you could say he deserves less, but what's less? Is it 10 games, 15 games? No, a statement needs to be made. And so whether it's 40 games or it's 20 games, the main outcome needs to be that John Morant learns his lesson. Because you talked about it. The Nike deal's gone. I think there's no way Nike of all companies drop people for less. I don't see a way. John Morant has just released his first shoe with his daughter's name attached to it. Like, that's, to me, that's the wildest thing. Is he has his young daughter, and he's still out doing a lot of the same things that he did. So when it comes down to it all, Moose, I just want to see the kid get right. We've all been 23. We've all made mistakes. We've all done things that, we shouldn't have done. But at the end of the day, you can't just rely on the people that are around you to help you get out of things, to help you be around the right people.
Well, John,
you become an adult at some point in time.
Well, no doubt about it. And that's where you can't continue to blame the people around you, because you're making the decision to hang with those people who are bad influences. Right. I mean, that's on you. Like, if you continue to do it, well, then it's not their fault. Then it's on you, because we all have free will. No one's forcing you to hang with people. Then you have to make decisions to cut people out of your life that are not necessarily good influences. And honestly, that happens all the time. I mean, it really does. I mean,
when you grow
really
and you elevate. Yeah, you grow and you elevate. Like, that's one of those things, is when, maybe your status changes, you come into a different situation, you have to learn who's holding you back. And right now, a lot of the people that he hangs out with, unfortunately, it's just not tied to what brand that he is now.
Well, let's be honest. I'm sure, Justin, some of them are leeches. I mean, they're just taking advantage of the situation. You see it all the time. Guys that are men that are just hanging around, right? Because John Morant's making an unbelievable amount of money.
But we don't really know his circle. Like, I don't know who's around his circle. I don't know his people on the.
Well, obviously, it's not good influence, because someone's got to tell him at some point in time, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, you've got the golden ticket. Like, what are you doing here? You're wasting it. You're flushing it all down the toilet, because now it's going to take, because now the perception is what it is, because he's allowed people to perceive him to be what this is, right? So, it's going to take him a remarkable amount of time to be able to overcome it, because he's already, anybody that trusts him and said, okay, well, maybe he's seen the light of day. It didn't even take him a year. It took him a couple months, and he went back on that already, Justin. And that's why the NBA is going to throw the book at him, and they should. Listen, I love watching John Morant play. He's an unbelievable basketball player, but there's a responsibility that comes along with playing in the association. And here's the other thing, mentioned it, and other people have talked about it. If you embarrass decision makers, those decision makers are not going to be happy. And he went out there and basically spit in the face of Adam Silver and others in the league office with what he did over the weekend.
I think JJ Redick,
they are going to react.
JJ Redick would have been right to pound the table if this was like 2 years after. Like, 2 years after, there's time to breathe. Maybe we've seen a lot of good from John Morant that time. Now you can pound the table and scream and get passionate. But it's 2 months. It's 2 months, bro. That's like doing something and then you get suspended at school, and then the very next week you're doing the same thing. That's not going to be taken lightly. Like, there's not time to forget about what you did, John. We were all just talking about you watching the Eminem dance, and you're not a thug, you're from Charleston, or whatever the hell the song is. Like, we all saw that. So to me, man, you just got out the playoffs. The playoffs just ended for you, and yet and still here you are again, John.
Yeah, and I think he's going to get half a year.
Yeah, at least.
I think
that's right.
By the way, just aside from we were talking about the TNT show, is there more enjoyable analysts than Barkley, or more like Barkley could say what for the most part, not anything, but Barkley speaks freely all the time. Like when he was who's the guy that they were making fun of on Boston? White.
Derek White.
Derek White and his hairline.
Yeah. And guys, I don't know, they get a pass for a lot of stuff, bro. And Shaq's always instigated to me. What'd you say, Chuck? What'd you say, Chuck? Say it again, Chuck. And I love it. Chuck will just say it too.
I can't tell you how many the Derek White thing, listen, I've got I got like a little bit of a receding hairline, so I get it. It goes away as you get older. But when they were making fun of it and having fun, and it was just so real and genuine. Like, I watched that maybe like 6 or 7 times. Like, it was just so funny.
The best TNT clip I've ever seen, at least it's got me to laugh the hardest, is the ESPN one where Charles Barkley, they're going back and forth about ESPN, and somebody brought it up. He said, "What'd you say about those guys, Chuck?" And he's like, "When you see those guys in the morning, you see them at night." He's like, "They're on ESPN 1, 2, ESPN Deportes, ESPN News, ESPNU." It was hilarious. We got to run that at some point.
Oh, we got to find that. There ain't nothing wrong. We'll come back. We'll get into game 2, Lakers Nuggets. Can Justin's Lakers respond tonight in Denver, trying to even up that series at a game apiece? We'll continue the association conversation. We'll do that next. It's Moose and Keith, Justin Henry in for Keith Arizari on this Thursday right here, Better Sports Network.
Moose and Keith. Weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern.
The word genius is there. Bob Glover, it describes him. Bob, so when's the last time that Twitter defeated you? Because I've been defeated by Twitter today.
I'll tell you how Twitter defeated me one time. I had the mistaken impression that the year that Troy Polamalu won the Defensive Player of the Year, it looked like it was going to go to Clay Matthews Jr., and I tweeted it. And there was a guy on the media bus. He was like, "Oh, yeah, he's got it, a guy I trust." I won't tell you who it was, but his initials are Mike Garofalo. So I went with it. Got a DM from Rich Eisen, NFL Network. He goes, "You sure about that?" I go, "Oh, man. Oh, I just got this wave." Because, accuracy to me is really important.
Yeah.
So I'm literally on the media bus. We're just getting back from media day. We are slipping and sliding in Dallas. It's snowing. I get off the bus. I open my laptop. I'm hunched over. And I just, literally people are passing me. "Bob, what's wrong?" And it was Polamalu. And Adam Schefter had retweeted me. Trey Wingo had retweeted me. I'm like, I'm dead.
So when it's Polamalu, then how do you handle that? Like, what was the subsequent tweet
I think
afterwards?
I said, got some bad Twitter info. I didn't put Garofalo's name on there. I had to
10 years later, you can out him. I like that. Yeah.
He wouldn't mind that. He knows the stories. So.
Yeah.
He actually said to me, "Hey, Bob, I think you might have jumped the gun on that." I was like, "Oh, crap." There we go.
Campus to Canton on the Better Sports Network.
Would Dion bench Shedeur?
I don't think he would.
Like, how bad would it have to be? Because we've seen horrendous quarterback play from this Colorado team for the last, 5 years? JT Shroud, Brandon Lewis, just terrible quarterback play. Like, they were 131st, which is dead last in pass EPA per play. Obviously, it will be better, but how bad does it have to be for him to bench his own son? Like, I'm not sure he will ever either, especially with the attitude that he came in with.
If they don't get Rashada, who do they bench him for this year anyway? I don't know that there's another answer on that roster that you go to. They don't really have a guy behind him, so I don't even know if we would know the answer to that until the next year, assuming that he doesn't declare for the draft, he returns, they bring somebody else that's competent and behind him.
If they're going to do this the Lincoln Riley way, next year would be the class to bring somebody in. Shedeur Sanders is going to be a third-year player, so he's going to play 2023. I don't think he's declaring for the 2024 NFL draft, so he's going to play in 2024 and then declare for the 2025 NFL draft. And let's remember this, he hasn't had a full recruiting cycle at Colorado. He will have that next recruiting cycle, so maybe he could get one of these class of 2024 quarterbacks there to come to Colorado.
However you're invested in sports, from betting to fantasy, collectibles, and more, join our community on Better Sports Network.
New York, that means one in each borough. I'm in the pocket like Burrow. When I'm back home, now they treat me like Robert De Niro.
Rolling on this Thursday morning, Justin Henry, Mark Malusis with you. All right, we've made you wait a little while to talk about your Lakers, Justin.
I can't wait to get into the Lakers. Before we do that, let's get into the Best Ball Invitational Draft. It's best ball season. And we've invited the best in the business to compete in a live draft on Better Sports Network today at 1 p.m. Eastern. Join Andrew Cooper and Bryn Flynn for pick-by-pick coverage and analysis of a live fantasy football best ball draft on Underdog Fantasy, featuring the top minds in the business from NBC, Sports Illustrated, RotoWire, Football Guys, and more. Learn winning strategies and then draft your own team on Underdog Fantasy and get a deposit match up to $100 using promo code FANTASYALARM at fantasyalarm.com/underdog.
All right, Justin. So just one thing on that. For those that are in our audience that might not know exactly what best ball draft season is or best ball is, we'll explain what it is.
Best ball, a way to draft, right? So before the season, there's a lot of things that can happen. But best ball, there's sometimes you don't want to be active, right? You don't want to change around your lineups. You're able to draft any point in time. You can draft right now, a little bit later into the season, but your lineup is locked. So you have a little bit larger rosters, but you're able to draft players. And these players, the way the lineups are set, it's automatically done for you. The lineups are set to the highest total points for the week. So you're able to go draft your lineup, draft as many as you want, and then just let it play out. You win your league. You don't have to do anything. Basically, it's easy as it gets, Moose.
There you go. Basically, there you go. Okay, awesome. All right, so there you have it. That's it, and that's going on.
The best part, right? Get to draft your lineup. That's what everybody loves to do anyway. A lot of the day-to-day maintenance part, a lot of people don't like that.
You just want to roll the lineup out there, and hopefully you get lucky. All right, let's get into game 2 tonight. Western Conference Finals. Justin's Lakers in Denver taking on the Nuggets. Both teams have been remarkable, if I could speak, at home this postseason. Lakers right now are 5.5-point road dogs going into game 2, plus 176 on the money line. If you like Denver, they're minus 210 on the money line. The total in the game, Justin, is sitting at 226.5. First, from a Laker perspective, I mean, there's just this mindset of, well, there's momentum to gain. I saw the Kendrick Perkins tweet off of what they did in the second half. Was that a case of the Lakers adjusting and Ham adjusting in the second half? Was that a case of Denver getting a little worn down? Maybe Denver trying to take the air out of the basketball? Do you have confidence about how the Lakers looked half number 2 against Denver going into game 2 tonight?
I have a lot of confidence for the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, the one thing is Denver's going to make adjustments. Mike Malone's a great coach, but the Lakers, with that adjustment to Roy and kind of letting Anthony Davis roam a little bit, it exposed a few things, right? Aaron Gordon is not a guy that's really a threat to shoot the basketball. So if he's going to be on the floor and Anthony Davis is able to just roam around a little bit, that makes this a dangerous setup for the Nuggets. So they'll have to adjust. I'm sure they'll put a different shooter on the floor. But it wasn't a fact. I have no question in my mind the Nuggets were not trying to let the foot off the gas there and just coast into a win because they're up by 20 points. And I think LeBron James and this Laker team is going to come into game 2 ready to win. LeBron in his career is 37-14 in game 2s. And there's only been 2 instances in his entire career where he hasn't won at least a game on the road. To me, this seems like a perfect bounce back spot for the Lakers, who have some momentum now coming out of that second half. And you never want to give a LeBron James-led team any kind of momentum heading into a series or heading into any game. And it feels like this is a game the Lakers can steal. Now, if they do, this changes the whole series because the Nuggets are one of the best teams at home. So protecting home court was probably the highest priority for this team. The Lakers go in there and they get game 2. This is going to be a rough series for Denver.
Yeah, it could, and that's exactly what Los Angeles wants to try and do. Here's the problem I have, though, Justin, is I like the Nuggets in the series. I know you're a Laker backer, and it's hard not to like LeBron and Anthony Davis. So I just think Denver's, if they play the game at their pace, I don't think Denver is going to lose 4 games in the series. Like I have a hard time envisioning that. Like if they allow the Lakers defensively to get set, and then they struggle off. They'll struggle offensively, and you saw that in the second half. So I think Denver learned a little bit. Mike Malone learned a little bit about that half number 2. Now Denver still won the game. Jokic was utterly brilliant. Davis played great. LeBron did his thing. Austin Reeves is the third best player on that Laker team. He scored 23 in game 1. They were all fantastic when it comes to that. But I do think there's more ways for Denver to win this series. I said it before the series started. I think it's going to be a home court series. Like I think we're going to go 7 in this series. I think it's going to be highly entertaining. I do think though we're going to go back to Los Angeles with this series, with Denver leading this series 2-0.
I mentioned LeBron's only lost twice in his career, or went twice in his career without winning a road game, and both of those were to the Golden State Warriors in the finals. Now, I get Denver is an elite team at home, and obviously they got the thin air there as well. But there's something about one game that changes a series. And so if you want to say, yeah, this might be a back and forth series, it'd have to be all home games because the Lakers have not lost at home as well this entire postseason.
No, they've both been fantastic at home.
Yeah, they protected home court as well. So I think the first team to get a road win wins. It has to be tonight, right? For the Lakers' sake, because they go to LA down 0-2. I don't feel like there's going to be a lot of confidence coming out of that locker room. Guys have been making plays, though. And so we've seen, Rui step up. We've seen Austin Reeves in the fourth quarter step up game 1. Who's the step-up guy this game? D'Angelo Russell struggled a little bit in that first game. They were attacking him defensively. I want to see who's going to be the step-up guy for the Lakers come game 2.
Oh, let me ask you this. Hachimura, right? You mentioned Rui. Do you think his defense on Jokic was that because he was playing great defense, or do you think Jokic was a little worn down? Because I think he played 42 minutes in game 1.
Oh, I absolutely think it's great defense. It's a good matchup for him because Jokic doesn't always need a tall guy to defend him, right? So most of the time it's a 5 guarding Jokic, it's a center guarding Jokic. So when you throw a guy that has a big body, similar frame, right? Rui's not a thin guy. It's a similar frame, somebody who's just as quick. Jokic, it's not like that kind of stuff bothers him because he plays a little undersized, even though at times he can go get the rim and go get a rebound, obviously. He plays like a guard, right? He's at the top of the paint there. He passes. So I think the rebounding element is probably the only big to his game. He plays outside a lot. So you put a guy like Rui on him, somebody who can box out, somebody who can defend in the post, who has the strength to keep up with Jokic. It's going to frustrate him because it was thought that AD was the player that would have to guard Nikola Jokic during this series. So if there's him or if Jared Vanderbilt, who normally is on the perimeter, can come down low, can come to the top of the key and defend, now that creates a new element for Anthony Davis. Anytime Aaron Gordon's on the floor or anybody that can't shoot the 3 balls on the floor, AD can sag off like he did against the Warriors, a la Draymond Green, a la Kevon Looney. He's able to play a different role, and now the length bothers some of the wing players, and he's able to go rebound as well. So unless they're able to stick a 3 guy out there, they have to stick a guy that can extend the court and extend Anthony Davis out to the wing or to the corner. If they cannot do that, this is going to be problematic for the Denver Nuggets.
All right, what concerns you as a Laker aficionado that you are about the Denver Nuggets outside of Jokic?
It's the fact that they have a lot of glue guys. When you match up against teams, you know what Jokic is going to do. You know what Jamal Murray is going to do. You know what Michael Porter Jr. is going to do. But you don't know what Bruce Brown's going to do on any given day. You don't know what KCP is going to do on any given day. You don't know what Aaron Gordon is going to do on any given day. And all those guys are glue guys. They're there defensively, and then they're there offensively as well at key times. So at home, yes, that's normally a bigger problem. Role guys tend to step up at home versus on the road. When you go on the road, that's when you can get, a lot of times the other players from the other team start to step up. So I think defensively, KCP's been to the finals. Bruce Brown's been on deep playoff runs. They have guys that can help out defensively and offensively. It's about which one of those guys is going to make a play, because we saw Bruce Brown all over the court game 1.
All right, so you saw Brown, and he dropped in, I think it was, 16 points coming off the bench for the Denver Nuggets, and I think the only other bench scoring they got was a Jeff Green made 3. That was it. Both teams are running about 8-man rotations right now. from a Laker perspective, it would be the experience when you look at Davis and you look at LeBron. I think Malone's a little bit better of a head coach, more accomplished, and when you look at Darvin Ham, obviously Ham taking over that Lakers franchise. Yeah, I think when you give LeBron, and he could smell it, right? And then what I mean by that is being 4 victories away from the NBA Finals, and then you have a Denver team that, even though Jokic is the best player on the court, I mean, I think he showed that in game 1. I think he'll continue to show that. Like, he's going to continue to ball out and do everything that he does, and wouldn't be surprised if, he has a couple more triple doubles as this series does roll along, because he's that great of a basketball player. But, it's Davis, and it's really kind of the will even of LeBron James at this stage to be able to find a way with this Laker team, because the experience of the Lakers, even though Denver's been here before, Jamal Murray tore his ACL last time they went to the Western Conference. Like, I do think that's a factor that would concern me if I'm a Denver Nugget fan.
Yeah, the experience factor is there. LeBron is the kind of player you just know that there's going to be a moment where he takes over. And we saw in game 1, it's like the momentum shifts at some point in the game. Now, Denver doesn't know. They're not a championship team. They don't have any championship pedigree. They don't know what it takes to get through an entire 7-game series and go to the NBA Finals. Never in their franchise have they even been to the NBA Finals. So this is a test for them. It's how do you stave off a team that does have that experience, right? A lot of guys at least LeBron and AD have that experience of going to a championship and what it takes to get through a series in order to do that. They're carrying a lot of guys along with them for the ride right now. And even first-time head coach Darvin Ham, they will be ready for this game too. Now, over the course of the series, I do expect this to get a little physical as well. Jokic is already a physical guy, but that's going to be the tone, in my opinion, that the Lakers have to win with. They're going to have to slow the pace down a little bit. They're also going to have to get a little bit more physical with Jokic, frustrate him a little bit, even though he excels in those type of areas. And AD is going to have to continue to play. I mean, he dropped 40 points in a loss. He's going to have to continue to play at that level in order for the Lakers to have an opportunity to win. He can't be in and out like he was the last 2 series where, odd game, he's good, even game, he's bad. He can't allow that to happen. It has to be LeBron and AD carrying. LeBron has quietly been scoring the most points he has since April, since he got hurt over the last 5 games. So I expect that to continue. LeBron, man, this is a big test for him. This is a legacy tournament for him right now. He has to go to the finals, or else there's going to be a lot of another stain on the record of LeBron James, even in year 20 when it shouldn't be. There'll be yet another stain on LeBron James' record.
Yeah, this year I think it's I wouldn't judge. I think we got into people get into the conversation of would this be his greatest accomplishment ever if he wins a title this year with Los Angeles. I still think it's the one he won in Cleveland, Justin, as LeBron's greatest accomplishment. All due respect to the Laker fans, and winning down in the bubble, and that presented different kind of a mental toughness to be kind of taken away from everything and being down there in Orlando. With all of that, though, I think the Laker run is remarkable. To start the year the way that they did, what were they, 2-10? To have the adjustments that were made by Pelinka and company at the NBA All-Star break to become as good of a defensive team as they've become, to have a .694 win percentage since the NBA trade deadline. It's remarkable what the Lakers have been able to accomplish here. I just think, and I've kind of felt it, I couldn't believe the Denver Nuggets were 10-1 to win the West or win the championship before the playoffs began. Justin, everybody, and I've said it before, everyone wants to pick somebody else other than Denver. I think in the end, it's going to be the team that was the best team in the West all season long, and that being the Denver Nuggets. But I think it's going to be a whale of a series. I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers ended up winning it, because it's LeBron. And if LeBron should lose this, I don't think it would be a mark or a stain on him losing in the Western Conference Finals, given where this Laker team started.
I don't think it never should be, but that's just how the media, that's how we look back at things. It's why we judge him for losing in the finals, right? Everybody's saying, oh, he can never be this because this has happened in the past. And that's just another attachment, whether it's year 20 or not. It counts as an L when people discuss these things when we're looking at legacy. So I think LeBron understands the importance of that, and this Laker team understands the importance of that too. That you could tell this team kind of rallies around LeBron. And they kind of rally around the fact that I think that this is year 20. It's something different for him. It is. This would not be up there with the 3-1 comeback. That was a very special NBA Finals and very special moment in time in NBA history. But this is up there. You know, when you talk about the type of year that this has been, not just for the Laker organization, having to make moves in order just to even get into the play-in tournament, but then also LeBron James, you know, the scoring record this year, the fact that it is year 20 and he's 38 years old doing this. This is a very special thing for the Los Angeles Lakers, and it validated a lot of the concerns that people had about the quote-unquote Mickey Mouse bubble ring, whatever dumb thing they wanted to say about the finals in the bubble, which obviously was validated this year. That says a lot. Like, I think this was an important year. The only way I think that it's truly validated in LeBron James' eyes is with the championship.
Yeah, and we'll see if he's able to do it. Let me ask you this, though, Justin, before we get into kind of side and total, and we'll get into some other things. Sean Zerillo is going to join Justin and myself coming your way, bottom of the 11 o'clock hour, right around 11:30. We're going to get into a little Preakness, some other things with Sean as he joins us. But what would a title mean for Jokic?
A title for Jokic, I think we look back at some of those MVPs, including this season, and we say, you know what, that guy's special. That guy deserved to be where he's at. And we'd have to start talking about him as one of the great bigs of all time. He's already up there, obviously, averaging damn near a triple-double this year. There's what he's able to do on the court, but he's still relatively young, and we would already have to acknowledge that as a two-time MVP, a league-changing center. There's going to be some other centers now who come after Jokic and play this way, who are capable of throwing 10 dimes a game. This is going to be, if he goes and wins the championship, we have to start acknowledging Jokic for what he is. And that would be at least, at very minimum, one of the top 10 centers to ever play this game, probably one of the top 75 players to ever play this game. I think we can already put him somewhere in that vicinity already because of what he's done on the court. And the fact that they didn't give him the MVP this year, and that there was this whole media cry about Joel Embiid, he deserved it a couple of these other years, and that they couldn't give it to him because they didn't want to give him a 3-time MVP back to back to back. They didn't want him to be that kind of winner because of the history behind it.
Right, because he'd only be the 4th guy ever in the history
that
of the
was
league
a disservice to what he did this season.
I agree.
Leading this team, number 1 team in the West, almost averaged a triple-double at the center position. And we had to give a pity award because Embiid cried about it. That disappointed me, man. Jokic, I know that the voters wanted to give it to somebody new. They had voter fatigue. But Jokic was the MVP. He's showing it right now.
Well, I think he's going to, and I think all the naysayers, those that say, well, he's a stat padder or that it's not legit because you don't take time to watch Denver Nugget basketball during the course of the regular season. I think a title shuts everyone up.
A title shuts everyone up.
Shuts them all up. All the critics shut them all up forever. I mean, it shuts them all up.
I think this Western Conference Finals already has. Like, you can't say anything. We saw Joel Embiid get knocked out in the Eastern Conference Finals with a 3-2 lead, and he was the reason they lost that Game 7. He didn't show up. Jokic shows up every single game. We know exactly what type of performance he puts in, and he even exceeds that. He exceeds that. We know he's going to get a triple-double every single game. But it's not the triple-double we expect. 30, 20, and 10. Like, what player is doing that, let alone at center for an entire, like, what he does is crazy, in my opinion, as a hooper, as somebody who's played, like, that's,
yeah,
that
I mean, you played, I played in CYO at St. Catharines in Belleville, New York. So it's not exactly like I played at some elite level, but I'll tell you this, I enjoy watching the game. He plays it. He's so smart. The vision that he has, and he does it different. Like he just does. Like, it's not everything is a thing of beauty, but he's got a remarkable touch on the basketball, can finish with either hand, is a sharing teammate. There's so many things to like about the way that Nikola Jokic plays the game. And Justin, I mean, you could appreciate it even more because you played it at a high level. I never played it at a high level, but to be that good, and to be a guy that was, a second-round draft choice. Nobody expected anything from Nikola Jokic, and to become the player that he's become. He helps Denver win a title, and they're ways away. I mean, they're 7 victories away from winning an NBA championship, and they could get there, and they could fall flat on their face in these Western Conference Finals against the Lakers. Like, anything's possible. But I do think is at least coming out of this, even if they should lose to LeBron and the Lakers, I think everybody will have a deeper appreciation for how good of a player Nikola Jokic is.
We talk about, his number one pick in the draft lottery and all
Oh,
the circus around that, right? The Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes and how he's going to transcend the game and become this player. I think people aren't realizing that Nikola Jokic is going to change the game for the center position. There's never been a center that has taken the offense, that runs the offense. The entire offense runs through him, and he's the facilitator and the rebounder and the shooter. Like there hasn't been a player like that. And I think these next generations, we absolutely are going to see another Nikola Jokic at some point, and it's somebody that's going to remind us. We're going to say, oh man, he looks a lot like Jokic. There hasn't been a player like that ever in history.
There is
and
not.
So, we look for these unicorn players because they're 7'5" or because they can shoot the 3 ball from 40 feet out. Why don't we look just right at what we have and what we're witnessing right now? Jokic is a special player. Like I don't want to forecast, but that's what we in the business to do. Nikola Jokic is going to go down as a top 20 player all time. NBA
You might be right when it's all said and done. I mean, let's see where this playoff run does come to an end. All right, tonight, before we get into Wemby, because I want to get your thoughts on Wembanyama, because I'm not. It's almost come to a point where I might be rooting against the kid. Like not literally. You get the point though, Justin. Like the hyperbole has become a level here where it's like the great. Like I joked around about it yesterday. Like Woj coming out on ESPN saying he's the greatest prospect some believe he's the greatest prospect in the history of team sports. I mean, like, can we stop? Can we stop? Like, LeBron was on the cover of Sports Illustrated as a high school junior. Like, you knew about LeBron James when he was like 13. Like, can we please stop with the nonsense about Wembanyama? I mean, and then someone posted a video of a guy like 6'6", like basically go right into his body and tossing him around like a rag doll. Like, I mean, like, can we just stop? I mean, I root for him. I hope he's great. But he's not the greatest prospect in the history of team sports of American sports. Like that's moronic. Like you can't say that.
Not in team sports. And we talk about LeBron. I think it's easy to forget what LeBron was as a prospect. Like I graduated the same year as LeBron, right? So when I remember watching LeBron as a junior and they had his games televised when he was a senior, I'm not gonna lie. I remember thinking like those hoops are lowered. They're doing that for LeBron James. Like I remember you talked about rooting against Wemby. I was kind of at this. I'm like, oh, he's the same age as me. I don't want him to do well, right? I thought LeBron coming in was going to be fake. I was, oh, he can't shoot. He can't do this. He can't do that. He's not going to be the greatest prospect. After game one, I became a LeBron fan. The game I saw against Sacramento, that was when I became a LeBron James stan. Like for the rest of his career, you see it in the background. Like I love LeBron, but leading up to that, I was looking at him as like, is he that good? Is he really that good? Like everybody says. And Victor Wembanyama, there's a lot of tape on him. And I have a friend that's on the G League Ignite team. I saw him play against him. It's legit. It's legit. The only concern, the thing I think you have to worry about, and everybody's talked about already, is the frame. He's got to put some muscle on that frame because that part does concern me. Being that tall and playing like a guard. You don't see 7'4" play like a guard. To actually play like a guard and to be in the league for a long time, he's going to have to take care of his body.
Well, no doubt. And he's going to have to get a little bit of luck too. And guys at that size. I'm not rooting against him. Can we just stop? Like, can we just, and I'm happy for San Antonio that they won it. Like feel bad for Detroit and glad he's not in Houston, to be honest with you.
He obviously didn't want to be there.
No, I mean, so you get into all that. I really can't take the fact that the grand hyperbole about Wemby, about what he's going to be as a pro. Let's all watch him, but there have been greater prospects that have entered the NBA. Like, and we're going to watch him play tonight in Denver for the Los Angeles Lakers, and that is.
Let's put it that way. He's up there with the greatest prospects to ever be. Now, when you look at it, the thing is, I think you can say there's never been a player like Wembanyama coming in. I think
that's fine. That's fine, but you can't tell me he's the greatest prospect in the history of team sport. Like that is,
that's because there's a lot of sports. There's a lot of sports. It's not just basketball, baseball, football.
I love hockey. Connor McDavid. Everyone talked about the fact that he was going to be an absolute superstar. He was going to transcend the National Hockey League, and he was going to be unbelievable. Connor McDavid is, is doing that in the National Hockey League. LeBron James, Bryce Harper. Like, we can go up and down the line. There are big guys. We don't have to run through the litany and the entire list, Justin. I just think it gets a little bit too much. Like,
Yeah, Bryce Harper, we were watching him play catcher at 14, hitting left,
Yes.
hitting 500-foot bombs at 14.
Right, he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Like, there have been other guys that have been talked about since they were young and kind of pinpointed as being superstars or future superstars in their respective sport. That's the holy thing.
He's just a freak. Like, Wembanyama's just a freak. I think that's the thing where all the sideshows about him, the way that he can play the game. You're like, we've never seen anybody ball handle and shoot the ball like that. That's what everybody's stuck on.
All right, Lakers tonight. Quickly on this. You like Los Angeles tonight. You like them. You think they're going to win Game 2 tonight, correct?
Yeah, I could probably come on this show and say every single day and say I like the Lakers, but I genuinely think they, especially plus 5.5. I really like that number for them. It's going to be a close game, and I think the Lakers do whatever it takes to get out of Denver with at least one road win. Give me the Lakers tonight plus 5.5.
Yeah, I would probably take the Lakers to keep the game close. I'd probably take them plus the 5.5. I'm not so sure if they win the game tonight. I'd probably venture to guess no. Now I want to ask you just about the total. So you like the Lakers tonight. You think a correlation, like where does the number need to be? Like if it's a really super high scoring affair, that favors Denver because they want to get up and down the court. And it favors, when they've got Murray and Porter hitting threes, Brown hitting threes from the outside, Jokic hitting threes from the outside. Like, where does the number need to be for Los Angeles tonight? Like, where do they have to keep Denver within in order to win a Game 2 on the road?
I don't think there is a true number that they need to keep because the Lakers can put up points. Now, I think they would prefer to keep it under that 230 number. Keep it anywhere under 230 to have a chance. But they can go win. I mean, the score of the game last was 132-126, and they had not.
But they lost.
Yeah, they lost. But there was a chance, an opportunity for that team to win. So I'm not necessarily sure the number. It's about the shooting for the Lakers and who's going to be that next scorer. Because if Austin Reeves isn't it, somebody else has to be. There has to be another 20-point guy on the floor for the Lakers to win.
All right, so you're looking at 226.5. Would you correlate if you like the Lakers, you take the under 226.5?
Yes, Lakers under.
Lakers all right,
under.
So you like
even on the road, especially on the road. You have because they'll have to play, they'll have to slow the game down, crunch situations, they'll have to run off clock. They'll have to get a lead and protect the lead. If the Lakers are going to win this game, like I truly think, I would play the under 226.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think if you like the Lakers, I think there's a correlation. If you like Denver tonight, I would take the over 226.5 because I think they're going to play more up tempo. If you think it's going to be a Laker night and a LeBron night, I would take the under 226.5.
Hey, you take the over, take the Lakers. You take the under, take the Lakers. Just take the Lakers. That's the correlation right there, baby.
Listen, I get it. I understand. I'm talking to Mr. Laker this morning. No question. I'm looking forward to it. Should be fun, though. We'll come back, get into a little bit of baseball, touch upon the NFL as well. Sean Zerillo is going to join Justin and myself, bottom of the 11 o'clock hour, right around 11:30. Touch upon the second jewel of the Triple Crown, touch a little bit of baseball with him. And he'll join us right around 11:30 this morning. He's Justin Henry. I'm Mark Malusis. Moose and Keith with you on a Thursday right here, Better Sports Network.
Bye weeks are so incredibly important in best ball because you can't change your lineup. You can't grab somebody off the waiver wire. You don't make changes. So you've got to be prepared. If you're taking 4 quarterbacks because you want to be sure, you got to be very methodical about the schedule, especially the bye weeks.
Yeah, that's a good point by you because I don't, in redraft leagues and in especially in dynasty leagues, I don't give a damn about bye weeks in a dynasty league. I'm taking the talent that I need, especially if it's like a startup dynasty league, man. And so, that's created situation. Matt Deutsch's league last year, I had a glut of, it was like week 9, I seem to remember. It was the bye week of death for me. Like, it's a 2 quarterback league. I had a bunch of QBs. They were like all on the bye at the same week. It was insane. At best ball, you've got to really be strategic about that. And it's almost more important than the statistics that you might put next to the player as the bye week to let you know, no, I can't go there because I got this guy, this guy, and this guy already.
You have an opportunity to get a quarterback you want, but your first 2 have the same bye week. You just can't do that to yourself. You have to be thinking it through. I do pay attention to bye weeks in my drafts. I just do. It makes me a lot less of a struggle bus situation when it comes to Mageddon. I don't want to have 4 players. I don't want to have all my wide receivers and just be playing scrubs. I don't want to have to get rid of a player that I like, that's healthy, that's performing for me just because out of desperation.
talk to you, Vlad, about an award here that I thought was very, very debatable. And it was Cy Young in the National League. In terms of odds, it's Strider at plus 230, Zach Gallen at plus 215, Clayton Kershaw plus 1,000. Clayton Kershaw, to me, his numbers are phenomenal and better, or at least right there with these other two. Strider was my preseason pick to win the award. But Clayton Kershaw at plus 1,000 compared to these other guys with similar numbers in the plus 200s. Like, let's bang on Kershaw and hope he doesn't get hurt, right? Where are you at with that, Vlad?
Yeah, those are great odds. I think the only concern that fantasy players and Dodgers fans had before the season started was innings limitations. Just wanting to make sure that he is fully ramped up for the playoffs. And as some teams do, you sometimes get those phantom IL stints. And we might see that sometime maybe around the All-Star break with Kershaw, just to preserve his arm over the second half of the season. But man, he's a great pick. If you're telling me those are the odds, that's really, really nice. I do love your Spencer Strider pick. I think that's what I would have done in the preseason and bet on him. He's an absolute beast. So, but Clayton Kershaw at plus 1,000, those are phenomenal odds. And you mentioned Zach Gallen. He's incredible too. And looks like Arizona has been in the hunt there in the playoff. Well, so far it's early. Dodgers, maybe Padres will be in competition for that division. But yeah, that's a nice three-way race, and we might see some other players pop in there.
Malusis and Henry with you on a Thursday right here, Better Sports Network. The show is Moose and Keith rolling right up until high noon. Justin, we haven't chatted in a while. We talked a lot about the NBA today. National Football League. Were you huge into the schedule release for the NFL? I know you're a big Niner fan. You're looking forward to Sam Darnold being your starting quarterback, right?
Here we go. Don't see, it's too early in the morning for my blood pressure to get this hot talking about Sam Darnold, the greatest thrower of the football in Niners history. I don't want to talk about that this morning. The schedule release to me, man, it's overrated. So overrated. We already know the teams that they're going to face. What does it matter if it's on TV? We're going to find that out anyway. I'm not with all these other antics, Moose. I'm not. The NBA draft lottery, the schedule release. Just show me the schedule. Show me the teams who are getting picked. I don't care about that. I care about watching the games, and I care about all the other nonsense. I don't need to see 6 months before the season starts. Oh, is it week 1 or week 2? Week 4, week 5?
I get it. Well, especially, now with the games late in the season can be flexed as well. The NFL does do a great job of, and it's not for you or I. Like, I don't get into the schedule as much as some of my friends and those that have season tickets. Like, I don't have Jet or Giants season tickets, nor am I looking to go out to MetLife Stadium every week or every other week, whatever it might be, or 8 games, 9 games during the course of the regular season, and throw in a couple preseason games. Like, to me, I would rather sit back at home, relax, watch the games, or if I have an appearance or do something like that, to be honest with you. Like, I'm not looking forward to sit there and go into the stadium. I like to go there on occasion with some friends or family or what have you, but I don't get into it. But give the NFL credit. They do an amazing job of giving you something, appointment television every single week. Now, the one interesting thing coming out of last night when it relates to the NFL is the NFL Sunday Ticket. Where's it going to be this year?
YouTube TV.
What happened with YouTube TV last night during Game 1 of the East?
Horrendous. How do you just don't show the end of Game 1? Like, this is a massive mistake by YouTube TV, because if this ever happens during an NFL game, all hell will break loose.
Imagine watching finals. Right. You imagine watching a week 15 game, like playoff spots on the line, and you're locked in and you're watching the NFL on YouTube TV, and all of a sudden, because of the amount of people, their system goes down and you miss the end of the game and you're not able to watch it. You're right. It's it's embarrassing last night. And that's where you get into all these streaming services. And I'm not like Peacock, YouTube, Hulu, they've got their hand in your pocket like every single month. Like, it's amazing. All these things.
Well, imagine if you're at the bar, like at the local bar, and they're streaming this through YouTube TV on all their TVs, and you could probably just hear a collective like, no, there would have, like, the screen just goes black. Like, how do you let that happen? First of all, if you're YouTube. Second of all, as a fan of a team, what if you were, that was your only source? and you're relying on that. How do you? I would be pissed off, man.
No, I listen, I get it. Like, and I'm not against streaming services. I think they're great. I really do. But you also, if you're going to step into that game, and you saw some issues last year with Amazon Prime where they had some connectivity issues, and they also had issues where the let's be honest, the picture didn't look particularly sharp, or the audio wasn't linked up to the when someone was speaking, it was off. So
At
there were
least, at
those.
least Amazon had those next gen stats. That was kind of slick.
No, the next gen stats were good, right? So Amazon Prime gave you that, but they've got to get that rectified because you cannot have that being an issue during the NFL season when that rolls around. Like I'm looking, we were talking about, we kicked off the program. You're out in California. I'm on the East Coast. You're on the West Coast. And, spring, we're in the midst of spring. Summer's right around the corner. Training camps are going to get going. Like this NFL season's, especially here in New York, where I am, well, I live in Connecticut, but in the New York area, is going to be unlike any other with the expectations on, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets going in and him stepping in at quarterback year one. And you look at, how loaded the AFC is, Justin, as compared to when you look at, the NFC is, the NFC, your 49ers are loaded from a roster perspective, but you got massive questions at the quarterback spot, right? The Rams are terrible. I don't know if Geno Smith's going to prove to be the solution. You look at, Kyler Murray's coming off the torn ACL. The NFC South is brutal. The NFC North, you've got to pick between the Vikings, led by Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff. It's like the NFC North is like the division of quarterbacks that nobody wants to believe in. It's Jared Goff with the Lions. It's Jordan Love with the Packers. It's Justin Fields with the Bears, and it's Kirk Cousins with the Minnesota Vikings. It's like every quarter, and I understand there's more believers in Justin Fields now based on what he did last year, but then there's some that are saying, well, he can run it. Let's see if he can actually throw the football. And then you've got the NFC East, where you've got Dak and the Cowboys, where everyone makes an opinion on and say, this is finally going to be the year for the Dallas Cowboys. And then you've got the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts and, the Philadelphia Eagles. To me, it comes down to, I think we're all set in the NFC to where, if the 49ers get any quarterback play, we're setting up for probably a rematch in the NFC Championship game, because the two best teams in the NFC are the two best teams that were left standing last year in the NFC, and that being the 49ers and the Eagles.
Yeah, they're a tier above any other competition. It's the Niners and the Eagles. And the Eagles, obviously, you're going to have a lot of consistency with what they had last year. The Niners may not. Like, if Brock Purdy doesn't come out to start the year, it'll probably be, we're going to find out if it's the Trey Lance or Sam Darnold show. I believe it'll be the Trey Lance show. All indications out of training camp are that, Kyle Shanahan says his throwing motion's improved. He looks 100% healthy. I know it's all coach speak right now before training camp gets going, but when I look at the Niners, top to bottom, that defense is already elite. It's an elite. It can carry no matter who the quarterback is. Christian McCaffrey and the weapons on offense. So if you do go with the Trey Lance, you go with the Sam Darnold, you go with the Brock Purdy, it's enough to win the NFC West. It's enough to be a top 3 team in the NFC, and it's probably enough to be in the NFC Championship no matter who starts it. Me and you could go start a quarterback for the 49ers and probably have a chance to be in the NFC Championship this year.
Probably you more than me, but I appreciate the confidence level. We got a question in our chat from Jay Cabasa for you, Justin. Did the Niners make a mistake on Fields?
No, I don't think so. I think it's easy to look back in retrospect, but there could have been a lot of the same problems with Justin Fields as there was with Trey Lance. Trey Lance came in year one and was running a lot of, quarterback draw stuff in the end zone, in the red zone. He got hurt. Who's not to say that Justin Fields may have been in the same spot? Justin Fields, for his first years in Chicago, he struggled throwing the football, staying in protection and making the right plays. So we could have been saying a lot of the same things. The expectations are just lower in Chicago. Chicago wasn't expected to go to a Super Bowl. Chicago's not expected to do a lot offensively. The Niners are. And we've seen Trey Lance for a total of 5 games total in his career. I think it's a little too early to press the panic button on Trey Lance. We saw Brock Purdy play well, but that's also a different skill set, also different limitations. So no, I don't think it's fair to say that Justin Fields should have been the pick over Trey Lance. I think that's an easy, it's a front runner take, to be honest. I think that's one of those things you look at. It's easy to say in the moment, but we haven't given enough time to breathe yet.
All right. What about when you look at the AFC right now, and you look at where would you put the tiers? If you look at the Niners and the Eagles being a tier above everybody else in the NFC, Where do you put the tiers in the AFC?
I got Kansas City tier 1, and then I got tier 2, which has about 10 teams in it because it feels like everybody in the AFC is close. When you talk about the Chargers, you talk about the Jags, you talk about the Bills, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Ravens, the Bengals, even the Browns, I feel like are going to be a competitive team. There's a lot of playoff worthy teams in the AFC, and there's going to be some teams that probably think that they're getting into the playoffs this year that are going to miss the playoffs. So the head of the class is the Pat Mahomes led Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, shout out to the Super Bowl champions, but the rest of the group is going to have some work cut out for them. The Bengals, the Ravens are pretty even tier to me. The Bills, the Dolphins, the Jets, they are kind of all equal to me. And Jaguars, I think just for the sake of the fact that they're the best team in the AFC South, probably have a leg up there. But all the rest of those teams are going to be fighting tooth and nail to get into the playoffs.
Man, I'll tell you this, though. I think Calvin Ridley is going to be a stud for the Jaguars this year. I'll tell you.
A lot of people think that.
That man's going to be on a mission. I understand. I'm not alone on that branch. It's not a wild thought. I get it. I understand. I
think they got a lot there.
I like to play the hits, Justin.
Hey, I'm not mad at it.
Let's welcome aboard right now Sean Zerillo. Action Network joins us. He joined us last week. He's fantastic. Hit upon a myriad of different topics. We got to get his thoughts on the Preakness, which is Saturday, the second jewel of the Triple Crown. Field of 8, not a great field of 8. Good morning, Sean. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate the time.
Good morning, Moose. Just shut up and play the hits, you know?
That's it. That's it. Like, I like Calvin Ridley. Like everybody else likes Calvin Ridley this year in fantasy football. Sean, I got a couple baseball questions as we come out first. That was as good of a win, and I don't know what it means for the Mets, moving forward here. They needed something. That was as good of a win as the Mets have had in quite some time. I understand they had walk-off victories last year, but, to get the 2-run home run from Vientos, who they just call up, then to get the 3-run home run from Alvarez in the 9th inning to tie the game, and then to get the walk-off home run from Alonso in the bottom of the 10th to win the game. That's as good of a win for the Mets last night. Now the question is, do they do anything with it?
Yeah, I think Frankie Alvarez has been hitting much better of late, too. Finally starting to see him bust out a little bit. They've been giving him regular playing time. So was inevitable, I think, that he started hitting. He's too good of a hitter not to have hit at this level. And he's still 21 years old. We see Beatty come up at 23. These other guys come up at 23, 24. Volpe, Francisco Alvarez, Tovar on the Rockies. These kids are 21 years old. That is really young to be hitting the big league level. High chance that they become all-stars at some point in the future when you're debuting that young. So maybe it provides the Mets a spark. But as we talked about last week, the Mets are a team I'm looking to bet against at this point to make the playoffs. Their schedule over the next 6 weeks is extremely difficult. They basically played after this series against the Rays. They'll play every other playoff team from the American League last year, except for the Rays and except for the Mariners. They have everybody else on their schedule. They still have the Braves and the Phillies coming up. And then they have the entire NL Central except for the Reds. So the Mets schedule over the next 6 weeks through the end of June, basically through the All-Star break, is extremely difficult. Fangraphs has them as about a 50-50 probability to make the playoffs at this point. Pacoda is a little higher. They have them at 75, 80%. So if you're going off of that Fangraphs number, the Mets to miss the playoffs right now, about plus 145, plus 150. DraftKings, Caesars, if you look around, I think plus 135 is the lowest number I saw. So considering betting the Mets to miss the playoffs, want to take a look at, their actual pitching matchups, where I'm going to project them as favorites or underdogs the rest of the week to time it exactly. But that's where I'm gearing with this team. I'm happy they got the win, but I think it just makes it a better price for me to fade.
Big win there. Look, we're going to talk about optimism. The Giants swept the Phillies, and, I'm a Giants fan. You see, I'm over here, got the Giants hat there in the back, West Coast guy myself. Nice to meet you, by the way, Sean.
Nice to meet you as well.
So we got, nice acquaintance here. You're going to give me some positive news. We're ahead of the Padres right now. Give me some positive news about the Giants. You think we're on the right track, right?
The Giants just an organization that is going to overperform. Once they got Farhan Zaidi in there from the Dodgers, they completely changed their approach, and they seem to just be able to get the most out of their players. Their player development staff is clearly excellent, and they're also able to do things in terms of like identifying pitchers who they think they can modify and get more out of. Even a guy like Sean Manaea, who has had horrible results this year, they actually got more velocity out of him. It looked like in spring training he was going to be a bust-out candidate. Signing Michael Conforto was pretty shrewd. I think he looks like he's finally rounding into form. A guy like Mitch Haniger, I believe his only 2 home runs this year came down in Mexico. But at some point, I would expect Haniger to start hitting. So they actually have these kids in the high minors, who I think they can eventually add to their roster. Luciano, Helio Ramos, who can provide a boost. And I like the direction the Giants are headed. With the Padres, though, the Padres are batting under 200 with runners in scoring position. Their luck with runners in scoring position has been horrific. They're just not hitting with guys on base. So at some point, I do expect the Padres offense to get going. I've been able to win bets against them with the Royals in recent days. But, I mean, in terms of a season-long outlook, I would still put the Padres ahead of the Giants. But with the Mets falling out of it, potentially, with the Phillies under 500, the Marlins in second place in the NL East, maybe the NL East isn't as good as we thought, which could open it up for a third team in the NL West or a second team and third team in the NL Central to potentially get in the playoffs. So, yeah, I think it's very possible that we get 3 teams from the NL West. I bet the Diamondbacks earlier in the year to make the playoffs about 4-1. Maybe I should be taking a look at the Giants with how the Padres are playing, but the Dodgers seem to finally, coming into the year, I had the Padres or the Dodgers and the Braves as the 2 best teams in baseball, basically neck and neck. And it seems like the Dodgers are finally playing to that level.
Sean, anybody, you mentioned you're fading the Mets and looking at that National League West as well. Anybody else that you're fading or buying from a team perspective right now based on what you've seen and what you're projecting?
No, it seems like the Cardinals are playing better. It seems like the Yankees are playing better. I had preseason.
A lot of people are on the Cardinals. A lot of people I talk to love the Cardinals to win that division.
Yeah, and, I bet them to win a division coming into the year. I was on the Brewers the past couple of seasons, so it really did cause me to flip my opinion. I was actually on Cardinals win total unders the past 2 seasons, so that shows you how greatly my opinion flipped. I thought the new rules would help them as much as any team. It turns out they've regressed substantially on defense. They're not nearly as athletic as they used to be, and they're also just doing a terrible job managing their assets. Finally, it seems like Chad Flaherty may have found something. I would expect something better from Steven Matz, but they're going to have to trade for pitching at some point. But now they've closed the gap. I believe the last time we talked, the gap might have been 8 or 9 games in the division. Now it's 5 games. So, yeah, it seems like every summer their Cardinals catch fire around this time of year and just sort of go shrieking and end up passing 90 wins by the end of the season. So maybe it is the time to bet the Cardinals. They seem so directionless in terms of their pitching philosophy. It's behind the times. They're pitching to contact. I've seen former minor leaguers from their organization complaining about the coaching and the player development. So it's a bit odd, the noise that I'm hearing, but it just seems like every year, and for my entire lifetime, the Cardinals are not a team to bet against.
I'm curious. I want to know, obviously we have the teams, there's still a lot of season to be had, but now's also a time where speculation, rumors start coming out about certain players, right? Trades will be happening here over the next, probably starting here in June, heading into the deadline there. Are there any names that you're looking at that are like, you know what, there's a possibility this guy's getting moved or could be moved here recently or in the near future, I would say. Are you looking at any names to get traded here in the near future or, within the next couple of weeks?
I mean, I think the dominant conversation with the Angels sitting at 500 is, are they going to get anything out of Shohei Ohtani, or are they going to let him walk via free agency this offseason? Because I don't think he's going to stay in Anaheim unless they have a miraculous run and win the World Series. I think it's very likely Ohtani ends up in Boston, in New York, or going further south, or I don't know if it's north or south, but going to the Dodgers. I believe – is LA above Anaheim? I think it's north of Anaheim. It's not great on my geography here, but my nerves as a Met fan, and I made this comp earlier in the season. I'm worried that the Mets are going to make the Carmelo Anthony trade for Ohtani. I think they can throw as much money as they want at him this offseason. They could throw $500 million at Ohtani. They can spend more money than any other team. But I'm worried, just like Melo is a pending free agent and very likely to come to New York when the Knicks traded for him and gave up assets, I'm worried the Mets are going to say, our pitching's falling apart. We can still be competitive this year. Let's trade our farm for Ohtani and sign him and have him on our roster and not worry about it. So as a Mets fan who has been looking forward to the arrival of Mark Vientos and Ronnie Mauricio and Brett Beatty and Francisco Alvarez and the other kids they have in the minor leagues like Jet Williams and Kevin Parada, I am a little worried that they are going to get impatient and overdeal their prospects who are in the high minors for technically a half a season of Shohei Ohtani, but basically to guarantee that he's on their roster going forward. So yeah, I mean, if the Angels do not stay around 500, it is literally all you're going to hear about for the next 2 months.
We're chatting with Sean Zerillo from Action Network. All right, Sean, let's get into a little bit of the Preakness. We got you for a couple more minutes, and you delved into horse racing. So, and were you a fan of thoroughbred racing growing up, or is this something that you just thought, oh, it's something to bet on, it's interesting, kind of, I can generate, hypotheses on it, take a look at the past performances, learn about that. Tell us a little bit how you got into the horse game.
Yeah, I grew up in Queens, so going to Belmont Park, was certainly part of my childhood. Betting on horse racing is how I learned to bet. And I think there's a lot of lessons that you can learn from betting on horse racing, managing a budget, allocating wagers to express your opinion properly. That all sort of ties back to budget management. But for UFC handicapping as well, I find there's a lot of similarities with judging performances relative to different levels of class, relative to different levels of competition, and what you take away from those. So sort of that, as a baseball bettor, somebody who models the sport, and I'm able to quantify everything to the 100th of percentile point and able to give you totals. I'll say a total I projected at 9.26 for today, right? I can get it to the 100th of a run in terms of where I model out a baseball game. But for MMA fighting, for horse racing, we have speed scores and stuff like that, but you still have to measure class level relative to one another, pace of the race and stylistic matchups relative to one another. So going into the Derby, 20 horse field, didn't seem like there was much pace on paper, right? But in a 20 horse field, there's always going to be multiple horses who go to the front, horses who send. And it turned out that we had, I believe, the fastest half mile in the history of the Derby. It was one of the fastest calls in the history of the Derby, even though people thought there was a chance it could be a slow pace. The Preakness is a bit different because same kind of feel that there's not a lot of horses in here that want to go early, that have that early speed, but there's only 8 of them. And actually on paper, Mage might have the best early speed in the race based on a race he did a couple of races back. I would expect the number 4 Coffee with Chris to be up there early, though. I believe he's a Maryland bred. He's 20-1. And just by nature of the fact that I expect a relatively slow pace, I think he could hang on and hit the bottom of the board at 20-1. So for your superfectas, your trifectas, the number 4 Coffee with Chris, maybe a horse that just gets out to an early lead, and as he fades, he still kind of sticks around and hits the board. But for Mage, who came 16 lengths off the lead in the Kentucky Derby, he's going to need to be closer to the lead in the Preakness if he wants to win. But I think it sets up better for a horse like the number 1 National Treasure, the number 8 First Mission, who I expect to be in that first flight of horses with the number 4. So I think Mage is very talented. The fact that he's the only Derby runner coming back and is the Derby winner, but the fact that he's the only Derby runner coming back makes this an extraordinarily weak edition of the Preakness. Typically, you see about 3 to 5 Derby horses running back the Preakness. Here we've won. So it was also a particularly slow crop of 3-year-olds headed into the Derby as well. So getting lesser competition than what we already thought was a weak class. But First Mission, in terms of like long-term prospects, who I think is going to be the best horse from the 3-year-old crop, trained by Brad Cox. Brad Cox, not a guy you want to bet against in any big-time dirt races right now. But First Mission, I think, might be the best 3-year-old in training ultimately, at the end of the year. So the number 8 First Mission, probably my top selection. I think the 1 National Treasure will be there. I'm probably going to use Mage defensively on the bottom of my exotic tickets or in pick 4s, pick 5s. I'll have him in there. And then the number 6 Perform at 15-1, maybe my top long shot to hit the board at 2nd or 3rd. Just he should be tucked in right behind that first flight of horses and make that first run on everybody in a slow pace.
I'm not gonna lie, like I don't really know a lot about horse racing, horse betting in general. Like when I go to bet the races, I'm always looking at names, right? The names get me. I'm a name guy. I'm like, okay, this feels like it could be a winner. For somebody like me, what's there to look at? What kind of ways can I find value on the board, or even have a hunch as to who to pick? Am I looking at the horse itself, the age, the jockey? Like, what kind of insights would I need to be looking at if I'm just like not familiar at all with horse betting?
Yeah, speed scores is a really good place to start. I am a math guy, and that is the best data point that we have in terms of measuring these horses. So buyer speed figures, anything over 100 is generally considered fast. And for these 3-year-old horses that we're getting for the Triple Crown, coming into the Derby. Only a few of them had even touched 100. In the past, for Derbies, we had horses get up to that 103, 104 mark. But you can generally see on paper how fast the horses have run. And if you look at, the past performances, the daily racing form that you get for every race, you'll see that number in there, that buyer speed figure next to all the horses for how they ran in races. But you also want to see progression, right? You want to see them improving from 2 years old to 3 years old. You'll see those lines that sort of break up their groups of starts. So sometimes horses will go on a layoff, they'll take 3 months off, and then they'll come back, and then they sort of have to get into form where they might improve in that first race, but you're actually expecting a better effort from them the second time. So a horse like Mage, who coming into the Derby, people thought he was very lightly raced, hadn't had any experience as a 2-year-old. They thought it was possible that he could take a step forward in the Derby, but they didn't necessarily project it because he had run too recently. Now coming back 2 weeks later off of a Derby, it's almost impossible to expect him to take another step forward. It's basically, does he run the same speed that he ran in the Derby, the same race, or does he take a slight step back and bounce? That's almost the only two options you could have here with Mage. So in terms of, handicapping form, handicapping the trend line of how horses are sort of improving their speed as it goes, that's what I like to see initially. But, in any race, like I said, you have to start off talking about the pace, because the pace is going to, sort of align the horses where they will be early. And for some of them, they may be too far back to catch up to the rest of them. So Red Route 1, the number 5 in here, he's going to be coming from the clouds and what I expect to be a slow pace. Maybe he gets up and hits 3rd or 4th, but it's unlikely considering how far back he's going to be at the half-mile call.
All right, Sean, last one for me on the Preakness would be Blazing Sevens. Ironically, he's the number 7. Trained by Chad Brown. Chad Brown won the Preakness last year with early voting, has had a lot of success. It's been a well-thought-of 3-year-old, ran in the bluegrass. Why no love for Blazing Sevens, who's 6-1 on the
Yeah,
market?
again, the pace, Chad Brown, early voting. I was on early voting last year. I bet Cloud Computing when Chad Brown won the Preakness the first time. So certainly it would have been a horse that caught my eye. Just to plug it, we did a 45-minute Action Network podcast covering the Preakness with Mike Somich from Racing Dudes and Mike Conti, who works for Action Network. They were both against Blazing Sevens as a potential pick in here because they think he's overhyped with the Chad Brown love. Chad Brown winning it last year. He has been training well, but they don't think the Bluegrass Stakes that he ran in aged particularly well. They think he might be a one-turn horse. So they kind of push me towards tossing the 2 and the 7 and maybe getting some value by tossing out the 7 and having him not hit the exotics. Obviously, Irad Ortiz, Chad Brown, not the kind of combo you want to go against, but this may be more of a one-turn horse. And where the price is going to be, I'd rather have the other options.
All right, and I'm gonna get to the point kind of guy, right? So I just want the anti-mattress Mac answer. I want the 1, 2, 3 finish, Sean. I want you to tell me who's gonna be the 1, 2, 3. So and I'm not taking any notes or anything, just so you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 8-1-3. I'm gonna go First Mission, National Treasure, and then Mage. But I do like the number 6 Perform to get in there. So if I'm in terms of playing bets, exotics, exactas, trifectas, I'm probably gonna play a cold 8-1 or maybe an 8-1 box exacta to try to beat Mage and get First Mission and National Treasure there together, the second and third choices. I have seen a lot of buzz for First Mission, though. It's actually possible that First Mission ends up coming sort of even with Mage on the odds board or ends up surpassing him because he does seem like a very sharp horse based on the buzz I've heard this week. But in terms of a trifecta, I'm probably going to try to get those 4 horses in there. As I said, the 1, the 3, the 6, and the 8. And then I may mix in some of the 4 as well, the Coffee with Chris, the 20-1 horse. So we're going to, maybe not necessarily a trifecta box where I'm using all 5 of them together, but I'll probably play it where I have First Mission winning and then the other horses finishing in behind them. I think, would try to key on one horse that you think will win this 8-horse field, but I would expect it to be the 1, the 3, or the 8 and sort of build everything else around that.
Sean, you're awesome. We appreciate the time. Back-to-back weeks. Thanks for cutting out some time for us on this Thursday morning. Let's go First Mission on Saturday. First Mission on top. First Mission on top, and you're looking to get Coffee with Chris underneath, right? And
the 1, the 4, or the 6 would be fine with me. So maybe I just play that exactly, 8 on top, 1, 4, 6 underneath, and just try to beat Mage. I think that ticket could play out pretty decently.
Sean, appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you again soon.
Guys, thank you for having me.
You got it. Sean Zerillo, Action Network. Malusis and Henry with you. We'll come back. We'll give you some final thoughts on Lakers Nuggets and got to hit upon the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs once again tonight. We've got a matchup. Finally, hockey is returning to the playoff slate. We'll get into that in a little bit as well. He's Justin Henry. I'm Mark Malusis. Moose and Keith with you on a Thursday right here, Better Sports Network.
Monday Night Rants with Edward Rouse on Better Sports Network.
Do you believe in the Madden curse? Do you think that's a real thing?
I did. Now, I don't think it's as big of a deal anymore, but it was a real thing for a solid 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it was Sean Alexander, LaDainian Tomlinson, Peyton Hillis.
LT was never on the cover. I know that.
Was he not? I thought he was one. Okay, well, you do know all the covers of everything.
Yeah, okay. So if you want, I could do this real quick. So Garrison Hurst is the first official Madden cover athlete, 1999. 2000, I believe they still put John Madden on the cover. And then 2001 is where it all started. So 2001, you have Eddie George. 2002, Dante Culpepper. 2003, Marshall Falk. 04, Michael Vick. 05, Ray Lewis, first defensive player on the cover.
Okay.
06, Donovan McNabb. 07, Sean Alexander.
Okay.
08, Vince Young. 09, Brett Favre.
Okay.
10 is a trick one because it's
no way you know.
And Larry Fitzgerald. 11, Drew Brees. 12, Peyton Hillis. 13, Calvin Johnson, I believe so.
You're right.
14.
No way you know all this.
14, also a trick question. I believe that's the Madden 25 cover, and it's Barry Sanders, unless you got it for the new consoles, in which case Adrian Peterson
oh my God.
was on the cover.
You're not cheating. You're not looking at.
Swear on my life. Swear on my life.
Okay, keep on going.
15, you have Richard Sherman.
Okay.
16, hold on. 16 is Odell Beckham.
Okay.
16. 17, now this is the one I get mixed up because 17 and 18 are back-to-back Patriots.
They are.
17, I think, is Gronk, and 18 is Brady.
You are correct.
19 is Antonio Brown.
Correct.
20, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh my goodness.
21, Lamar Jackson. 22, Brady Mahomes. 23, John Madden. Yeah, dude, I'm a cover nerd when it comes to this stuff.
We now know, but that was really impressive. I don't know how.
Thank you.
That's literally 29 of them or something like that. Wow, that is. You did not miss a single one, and you even got the special editions where they had two people on the covers.
Monday Night Rants on Better Sports Network.
I teach you the king, you know you. Godson across the belly. I prove you lost the race yourself.
Moose and Keith with you. Justin Henry in for Keith Arizari. Final segment of the big program on this Thursday right here on the Better Sports Network. Before we give you some final thoughts on Game 2 Western Conference Finals tonight, I'll get a little bit of a feel of what Justin Henry's pregame is as he gets set to watch his Lakers in a big game tonight. Because I'm curious, is he pacing? Is he nervous? What's going to be on the slate? Stanley Cup playoffs return tonight. Game 1 Eastern Conference Finals between the Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes. Unbelievable run for both teams to get to where they're at right now. How do you discount Florida? I mean, the Panthers have answered every call. They went through Boston. They went through Toronto. They're now on the road in Carolina, plus 126. They were the team that was the President's Trophy winner last year. Kachuk has done an amazing job. I know a lot of guys. My buddy Nick Costos has made a lot of money betting on the Florida Panthers during this run. If you've been on them this far, no reason to get off now, but should set up for a great Eastern Conference final. I would not be surprised if the Florida Panthers tonight, plus the money, come out with a Game 1 victory tonight on the road in Carolina, which should set up for a fantastic series.
Shout out to the state of Florida. I mean, all the teams. I feel like the Hurricanes did well in the tournament. You got the Miami Heat playing incredible basketball. And then Florida in
and then you got the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays are the best team in baseball. It's amazing.
Man, shout out to Florida. Normally, Florida, we always make Florida's a lot of times Florida's the butt of the jokes. Like there's always some weird stuff going on in Florida, and they win in all kind of sport events now. So shout out to Florida.
Now, Justin, I'm a Knick fan. I grew up a Knick fan. So I'm in the land of when we win a playoff game, we celebrate like we just won an NBA championship, shutting down 7th Avenue. That's how starving the Knick fan is. Like you're a Laker fan, you're in Cali, like you understand what it is to be calm, cool, and collected. You've won multiple NBA titles. You had Kobe, you have Shaq. Now you have LeBron James. You had Kareem. You had Magic. Like, it's just like a who's who of the NBA. So as you
expected
get
now.
Yeah, well, now it's just like, right. It's royalty.
Expect
right?
to
It's
win
the Lakers,
championships. I'm a
right?
championship guy. I'm spoiled. Yeah, exactly. Got the king.
Get the king hat on. Adjust it. So what's your pregame tonight? Getting ready for a big game too, because as you mentioned before, the game, the Lakers, they want to win this series. You got to win this game tonight.
Well, normally I'll take this as any other game. You know, a lot of games I got stuff going on with my kids, taking them to practice, and I'm doing homework, and I'm, catching the game right as it starts. But today's different. Today I got my Lakers jersey, my LeBron jersey is hanging up and ready for me to wear. Today I need a little extra. The king needs a little extra JN support. So I'm gonna be living through the king every single moment. I got my couch set up. I might grab a drink tonight. I've been trying to drink less, Moose. I've been trying to be a little bit better about that. But I might grab a little glass of wine, help with the throat problems, bro. So to me, I'm like, you know what? Let me get set up nice. I got a nice couch, put my feet up. My son, he's a Warriors fan, and so we were going back and forth last series, Lakers Warriors. It was a little tested, we were going back and forth here in the Henry household, but. Now I think I'm trying to get him to come onto the Laker bandwagon with me.
Now tonight, is this an order in night where it's like you don't want to be having to think about making dinner or whatever? Is this where you're ordering food, takeout, picking it up, having it delivered, what have you?
My wife knows. She gonna have food ready for me. She gonna deliver it to the couch. I'm not eating at the table tonight. Tonight I'm not eating at the table. This is game 2. I'm locked in. So the wife, she knows. She gonna cook a meal, bring it to the table. Bring it to the couch. Excuse me. And I'll be talking. I'm be all in my emotions. I get. I went to game 6, Memphis Grizzlies, Lakers in LA. I was sitting about 10 rows up. And
nice, look at you.
I told you, there's a championship expectation over here. I'll just go pay if I don't think we're winning a championship this year. But
you were sitting 10. What, you were right on the side with Kim K, right there.
I thought there was a girl walked right by me. I thought it was Kim K. So I was like, I got a little excited. I'm not gonna lie. I see a little Kim K action, but no, I said, "What's up to Kyrie?"
I think
Irving.
that's a natural reaction when you see Kim Kardashian. Would be getting a little excited.
No, I saw Kyrie said, "What's up?" T. Moran. We're sitting right by where the Grizzlies enter, so I got to boo Dylan Brooks to his face. There's a lot of celebrities there, man, and you kind of don't expect it. You expect it coming in, but that was the first night. Like Jack Nicholson had been there.
Yeah.
Dr. Dre was there, and every time they wanted to run, they played that Dr. Dre. Boom,
oh, that's great.
Yeah,
that's
had the whole crowd rocking, man.
That is great. Are you confident going into tonight? I'm getting a sense you think the Lakers are winning tonight.
So if I had to put a percentage on it, I'm like 52%. The Lakers win tonight. That's where I feel good about tonight. But I do have my concerns. The Nuggets are a tough team. They have should be MVP on the floor, but I expect LeBron James, the best basketball player in NBA history, to do his thing.
Not the greatest prospect ever.
Not the He might Wemby the greatest. I don't know about that, man. 7'4" with guard skills.
I'm joking. Well, listen, enjoy that glass of vino. Enjoy the Laker game tonight. Hopefully, and hopefully the Lakers get you a win for you. All right.
Cheers to that.
All right.
Cheers
It's been a blast. Thanks for being with us for the last couple hours. Keep it locked right here. See you tomorrow at 10. Better Sports Network.